Welcome, everybody, to Behind the Curtain, a real estate podcast once a month where we get together and talk about all things real estate. Once again, joined by Taylor Goldenthal and Cole Watkins and myself, Nicola Palamento. We are the team leaders of the Bridge Group, and we've got some stuff in the news that we're going to talk about, and we're almost in 2024. This year is basically almost done.
Well, I mean, the Realtor New Year is what, December 1st?
Yep.
Right? And so we're 28 days away from that. And I think we are, at the Bridge Group at least, in planning mode. You know, business planning for the Bridge Group as a whole. And then, November 6th, which is next week, this will come out after that. But, that is our team planning. So business planning, we're inviting anyone and everyone that wants to be a part of that, whether they're an EXP or not, to be a part of that, but it's something that we have to do right now. If you wait until January 1st, you're too late.
Your business won't start until the second quarter if you wait until
you're
the
a
first.
month too late.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
Yep.
And so, what is that saying? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Right now, we have to start planning for next year, especially with some of the things that have coming up in the news that we need to be aware of and pivot, in a different direction than we were even pivoting this year.
Yeah, so it just came out in the lawsuit that is currently going on between NAR, a few brokerages, and some homeowners. They filed a class action lawsuit. If you're not aware of it, Google it. But essentially,
definitely be aware of that, given the industry that we work in.
Yeah, given that it could
you live under a rock,
literally
if you don't know
affect your commissions. Something that you should definitely be watching. BAM has some great coverage of it. I know Inman has also been in the courtroom and also reporting on statements from what's happening and stuff like that. So that's been a great way to stay informed. But as of right now, in this current court case, the defendants, which would be us and AR, we lost. They were awarded $1.8 billion. But then they added punitive damages on top of that, and it is now at $5 billion is what they have currently awarded to the plaintiffs, which would be the class action 500,000 or so people that were involved in the initial class action lawsuit. So the attorney has now said he's going to go after more brokers after this win. It's not over yet. It took 4.5 years to get to this point.
Nick, for everyone that is living under a rock, what is this case over? Like what are they getting sued over?
Yeah, so the case that was made by the plaintiffs and their attorney, which was homeowners, it was a class action lawsuit where they said they feel like there is a conspiracy to inflate. A collusion conspiracy to inflate commissions. So and to keep them at a 6% number. And so basically their whole case surrounded around making this claim that all of the brokers and all of the real estate teams are working together to make sure that commissions stay at a standard of 6%. Now, obviously, if you're a real estate agent, you know that they're signing, when you sit with a homeowner and you go over what you can sell their house for, you're presenting them with a contract and they are agreeing to whatever percentage you put on there. And you can choose to put 1%, 2%, 8%, whatever you want. And also the homeowner can negotiate with you if they don't want to pay that amount. So I think the argument has a lot of holes in it. I don't think NAR necessarily did a great job defending our position.
They did a terrible job. I mean, the simple thing of discount brokers, those are a thing. They're marketed, they're advertised. There's one called 1% lists, which there's obviously that tells you there's no collusion, there's no conspiracy. But anyway.
Right. So anyways, this court case happened. This has happened many times in the past, but it's never gotten this far. And so now to have this awarded $5 billion of damages that's a crazy number that none of these companies have. I mean, no matter how big NAR is, they do not have $5 billion. So who is going to be the one that's going to be paying for that $5 billion is now the question. We're all members of NAR because we're required to be. Not every state board requires you to have an NAR membership,
MLS,
but a lot do. And so here you have to have an NAR membership. And so are they going to pass it on to the realtors? Will that affect our contracts and the way that the language is written? I feel like it's pretty clear as it is right now, but the jury members took literally an hour and a half to deliberate. Then they asked for a calculator so they could calculate the damages. And then they gave their response within 2.5 hours of going in. They had a week to make a decision on what they wanted to do with this court case.
And they took an afternoon.
They did it in an afternoon. So that tells you that one, the defendants, which would be us in AR, did not make a good case because they didn't even really have to deliberate over anything. There was no what do you think? What do I think? They basically had already made up their mind that we lost. Again, this is not the end of it. Took 4.5 years to get here. It could be another 2 or 3 years before anything substantially actually changes. There will almost assuredly be an appeal from NAR and those that lost.
I think there already has been an appeal, but one of the things that I would like to say is that I think I called this podcast or two ago, and I said that I think there's a good chance of them losing, NAR losing. And I can't remember what we were going back and forth on, but was it the fact that... I don't
think anything's going to actually change
at
the end of the day.
I think that's what we were going on. Right. You don't think anything's going to change?
I think, how often does commission come up anyway, right? 15% of deals, 10% of deals. Maybe it comes up twice as much.
For listings,
yeah.
Quite a bit.
Maybe it comes up twice as much. But I've taken listings at 5% before. I try not to make a habit of it, but I've done it. Most of my listings are at 6%. I've taken a listing at 4% before when I needed to, because ultimately it's all negotiable. But
it is negotiable, and that there's not. And they teach you this in real estate school. One of the very few things that you remember from real estate school is that there is no standard. There is a usual of 6%. I mean, that's typical. That's what people know, but it's not to be expected. And that is negotiated, right? And so to feel entitled, you should only feel entitled to your ability to negotiate, your fee. And so, yeah, I think that is a huge thing. But I also think that how quickly that they got this, like they made that decision, says a lot of things about the reputation of a real estate agent, and about like how people see us. And I don't feel like Selling Sunset and $1 Million Listing, and I love $1 Million Listing, but like all these other shows, I don't think it helps our situation. Like I think that, and I was talking with a good friend last night, and we were watching some Instagrams of other agents in their Rolls Royce or in their and I'm like, man, even if I had that, I don't think I would ever post it.
No,
because everyone now thinks like, oh well, if you're a real estate agent, you're getting all 6% or you're getting all 3%. And the simple fact of the matter is
you're putting all that in your bank without any expenses and taxes and everything else.
Right, yeah, I can tell you there is a lot of taxes.
Yeah, I just cut a check for $13,000 last week. So.
Yeah, no, you can absolutely do that. But the thing is that I feel like the public looks at real estate agents in more of a negative light than a positive light.
Yep. Sure. And lazy agents are honestly to blame. Who is it? Jimmy Franklin said, "Don't complain about realtors; they're your competition."
Yeah.
But unfortunately, with such a low barrier of entry, it gives us an uphill battle to prove our worth. I mean, we get compared to used car salesmen. I mean, and then we're selling massive, massive assets that have major implications.
Well, and there's a lot of money to be left on the table or to be won for our clients. And the thing is you have agents, and I'm not talking bad about anyone, but I'm just like, we are professionals in our industry, and we have a lot to be won or lost for our clients. And we're out there doing TikToks. Or dancing around or like doing stupid shit. Yeah.
Bubbles.
Right. And so like my thing is I feel like the public looks at our industry almost not as a joke, but like they don't take our industry serious, and that's not their fault. That's our fault.
Yeah. And I think an important thing to note is, again, there will be an appeal. This may or may not actually change anything as of right now, but at the very least, it has brought awareness. People who maybe have not been following along with this are now seeing it on the news. They're seeing it in their Yahoo Finance. They're seeing it. Stocks go down in different companies that were a part of this. So I think that there's now more of an awareness that this is even a thing. We've been watching it because it affects us, right?
Right.
But I don't think your average person has really been paying attention to that. But now they know. Now they know that it's a thing. And as of what they're seeing, we lost, right? But I heard what's his name? Brandon Mulrennan. He has a podcast where he gets on and talks to some other guys.
Great podcast.
They were talking to a few lawyers about what happened and their thoughts on it. And an interesting thing that came up in their conversation, which was there's a lot of talk about how this was NAR and those that were involved in this court case knew it was going to lose because of the court they were in, and they didn't put up a big fight. They wanted to see what kind of case the plaintiffs were going to make so that then they could appeal, go to a higher court that they know is more business friendly, and then make the real case.
Rip it open.
That it was supposed to be sort of a, hey, this is halftime.
Yeah.
Like we knew we were allowing you to make this progress and feel good about it because we wanted you to show all your cards so that we can come through it. Because any argument that we as any like regular producing realtor of any level could have sat in that courtroom and made a better argument.
Easily.
But they didn't, and it was weird that they didn't, almost to the point of now where they're like, well, wait a second, maybe that was part of it all the way along. Either way, it could affect our NAR dues. There could be assessments for it. There could be changes to contract language.
Because they don't have $5 billion.
There's a lot of things that could happen if that actually goes through.
If nothing else, I mean, NAR can win the appeal, and this could all get swept under the rug. We're still going to have all of our documents are going to be changed, and the general public is still going to be much more aware of commission structure.
Yeah. And you're going to have a lot of companies who have been already doing discount listings, or they've already do flat fee stuff. They're just going to try to take mind share now that they know that people are aware of this. You're just going to see more of them offering services at discounted rates.
So what's the best way to combat this? It's to focus on listings and to make sure that you are an expert at your craft. Go ahead.
To rewind it though, is the reason we want to focus on listings because the agent between buyer and listing agent that's commission is in question is the buyer agent.
Yeah. Right. If you have the listing, you get to negotiate directly how much you get paid, because how many of our buyers are in a position to pick up an extra 3% to pay a commission?
Yeah, to pay us.
To pay us on top of it.
Right.
Very few of them. Very, very few. So getting listings is going to put you in a position where you can actually negotiate and ensure that you get paid what you want to get paid.
Yeah, even if the seller, against our advice, says, "Hey, I'll give you 1%, Mr. Buyer Agent." That sucks, But at the same time, it is a reality if things don't go, our way in the future with appeal or not. And I feel like that's what could ultimately happen if we lose the ultimate battle. So, I think that focusing on listings, and then also if you're continuing to be a buyer's agent, I think it was Tom Toole that talked about this. You have to make sure that you're able to give your a pitch or a value pitch in a way that lets people know, hey, this is the value you're going to get with me versus all these other discount agents. You have to have objection handlers, just like you would for a seller or to discount your commission now with a buyer. Yep. And then you also have to get creative with the deal structure, and you can't just depend on the promulgated contracts just to go out, and you have to structure it to where you're still getting paid and they're still getting their house and they don't have to come out of pocket. So there's a way to do it.
Working in closing costs and things of that nature.
Yep. So it gets a lot more complicated, and I can't wait to kind of go through and shop out some of those with the Bridge Group should something happen. But we're going to have to do it regardless, because at the end of the day, now this is out there. It was on CNN last night.
Yeah.
And so now this is out there, like you said, people are going to start talking about it and figuring, how can I sell my house without all of these other extra closing costs?
Yeah. At the end of the day, I think and this is part of what separates us maybe from a typical team or a typical, single agent, is we're trying to treat this like a business. So we're trying to forecast. We're trying to look ahead. We're looking backwards at 2023. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? What can we improve on? Are there things that we can add that we're not doing today? That's why in November we're already planning for next year, because we see that regardless of what eventually happens or could happen, we want to treat this like business owners rather than just people who have their license and who happen to sell real estate. Those are the ones that end up losing in situations like this. Yeah. It's kind of when we go back to 2008 housing market crash, and there were still homes that sold. It's just it's just whether, your name was next to one of those transactions or not. Yeah. It's not that houses stop selling all of a sudden because of this lawsuit. It's not that people don't need to move anymore. Those things still happen. But if you are just a license holder, you're typically the one that's going to suffer when things like this happen, because you're maybe banking only on buyers, or you're only working with, a small, pool, a small pipeline of people. Whereas if you're planning ahead and you're thinking, how do I focus on listings? What can I add to my business that I don't have today? You're sort of hedging your bets against what may or may not happen. And you're ultimately going to be the one that's ahead than somebody who's not really paying attention and just kind of doing business as normal and not changing anything. Those are the ones that kind of get caught flat-footed and they end up losing.
I mean, this year that we're in right now, 2023, is kind of a good barometer for that. Which side of the coin are you on as an agent? Everyone's talking, the market's collapsing, the market's down, it's a down market, I can't get any sales, so on and so forth. Well, what was it? 48,000 realtors at the start of the year registered through HAR.
It was either 48,000 or 50,000, but there's been a net loss of 8,000 agents in the Houston
So
MLS.
we're down 8,000 agents. Let's call it roughly 20%. Sales are down over last year, but it's not anywhere close to 20%.
No.
Depending on the month, 8 to 12% is kind of what we've seen month over month on the monthly reports. So really, there was more business to go around per agent this year than there was last year. So that then will tell you what kind of agent are you. Are you an agent that was treating this like a business? If you were, you should have gained market share this year. You should have done better this year than you did last year, even in a down market. So I think that's a really good exercise that we can all kind of take and apply in our businesses and to reflect a little bit as we get into next year.
Yeah. Well, let's get into planning for 2024 and kind of what we're doing with our agents, the things that we feel like we've learned over this past year that we're thinking about changing, things that could be helpful for somebody who's, I'm an agent, I closed 10 deals. How do I make 2024 my best year yet? Right?
Well, and you absolutely can though. And like, I do want to say that and kind of echoing what Taylor was talking about is we have agents on our team. I was talking to them today that have outperformed, and this is their best year ever. Mm-hmm. And you can absolutely do that in a technically a down market. You can still have your best year ever in a down market, and you can outsell what you sold in 2020, 2021. You can do that, but you have to be doing the right activities. And I feel like that's what separates an agent that's going to drop their license next year from an agent that's going to have their best year ever. So, next Monday when we go through our business planning, we're going to go through a couple different stages, which each one of us have a part to play in. Really just doing an update like we are right now on the market and kind of what's happening in this current market that we need to be aware of so that we can pivot in this way. Then I think you're going to go through the numbers for us and kind of go through, hey, look, it's not just how many transactions. Yeah, everyone wants the 100,000, right? I want to make 100.
The magic number.
I want to make 100 grand. Well, okay. Well, it's not just, how many transactions do I need to sell at what price? It is that those are important numbers, but the most important number is how many conversations do you need to have that many transactions?
Right.
And in this market, I think all of us would agree, used to was like 30, 35 conversations to one transaction. Now it's probably close to 50.
Yeah, if not more for some people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it goes to in a business. So let's say you're in the corporate world. A lot of businesses, they measure by leading and lagging indicators, right? How do we know how our business is doing? How is it trending? So you typically want to look at a leading indicator because that will predict what your output's going to be. So in our case, in real estate and sales, the leading indicator would be things like conversations. The amount of conversations we have gives us an indication of what we can expect on the output side, which is contracts.
What's a lagging indicator?
So lagging indicators would be things like setting appointments, right? Or a listing, getting a listing put up. Like that is a lagging indicator. Okay, I had conversations. It should produce those things, and those things then become the money that we make. But if we just focus on, I want to sell 20 properties, I don't really know what to measure to know if I'm on track to get 20 properties.
Right.
That's where we want to work backwards for that conversation, because that is what tells us, okay, if we know on average it's 50 to 1, the better you get, the easier it is for you to measure your conversion rate. We're just using an average for most people, but for some people it is 20 or 30 conversations.
Conversion is the whole, that's the most important thing, because the thing is also, just because you have 20 appointments doesn't mean you're going to have 20 closings and piece of business. It might be 33 to get 20, right? Especially in this market, we're seeing buyers. I was on the phone with all our agents today, top producing agents, and they're like, I keep having buyers back out. Mm-hmm. Despite my objection handlers, buyers are just pulling out of the market. Sellers are just waiting until next year. And so the thing is, just because you have that appointment does not mean it is in the bag. Right.
And I think another thing that I've noticed this year, and a big change year over year, is the amount of nurture and follow up and kind of hand holding and checking in that you need to do with your prospects now. People are a lot more apprehensive to move forward. Natalie on the collective has been working a guy since July.
Okay.
Following up with him since July. Well over 50 contacts with the same individual. She just got him under contract today.
Good.
But that's just kind of where we're at. And if you're not organized and you aren't diligent with your processes and who am I going to call? When am I going to call them? What style of follow up is it going to be? You need to. It's very rare now to meet someone at an open house or door knocking and they're ready to go. They made up their decision. Let's go. We'll get under contract next week. People are so much more emotional about this journey right now because of all of the bad press, interest rates, economy. Now we're getting into the holidays. So I think the other thing is a lot of agents have struggled with that discipline level of follow-up, staying top of mind. And just because someone expressed interest and you set them up on a search portal and y'all got a cup of coffee even and talked about the buying process, it could still take you 6 to 9 months of follow-up and checking in with that person until they're ready.
Yeah, well, you don't have the incentives that we had, right? Like in the last 2.5 years, we would literally be like, hey, if you want this house, you cannot think about it. Like you have to put an offer in. But now
putting in the offer in the driveway after the showing.
Right. Well, now you don't have that. Now that same property is on the market 42 days, or whatever. So people are having time.
You
to
have
think
that,
about
but now it's at the $250K price point.
Yeah,
it's like the houses. Everybody wants a $250K house right now because they don't
Bigger
exist.
Audience.
Nobody wants a $295,000 house in Tamarack.
Oh, that's for sure.
Yeah. If you know
can't
somebody
give that house away,
that wants to buy the cheapest house in
If anyone
Tamaron,
wants the cheapest house in Tamaron, it is currently November 2nd. It is available for sale at $295. It's a gem.
hopefully it's sold
by the time y'all watch
yeah.
this.
So looking back at this year, 2023, what are some things that we feel like maybe don't work anymore or don't work like they used to? Things that we would say like that was good for 2022, 2021, but not good now.
I think putting pressure on people doesn't work anymore.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I could put pressure on someone in 2021 and 2022. Hey, everyone's buying a house right now. Interest rates are at all-time lows. There's 11 other offers on this house. Let's put in an offer. And once you get someone to make the commitment to put in one offer, you've got them hooked at that point, and it's a lot easier to go through that journey. But you can't put pressure on people anymore right now because they're having such hard conversations with all of their friends and family. And we've heard it throughout our entire careers. Everyone's always saying, oh, the market's going to crash. Property values are going to come down. But it's now like a legitimately popular thing for people to say. And they're having all of these roadblocks and objections from all of their friends, their family, their spouse. Should I do it? Look at these monthly payments, so on and so forth. You can't be aggressive anymore in that way, or you'll push people away and they're not going to want to work with you.
Yeah.
So it's that fine line of being a coach. Like, hey, I want what's best for you. Whether it's next month, next year, or in 3 years, I want you to find a house that you're going to love with monthly payments and all the financing terms that you're comfortable with. That's what we need to do now rather than trying to push them.
I had a conversation with a friend of mine who is ultimately, like, he wanted to rent the house that he's in right now, like, forever. It's a badass house. It's really, really nice. Likes his landlord, but now that the foundation is moving, he's like, ugh, I'm going to, like, pipes are busting and, like, windows are kind of getting messed up. So I'm going to have to look for something else. Should I sell or should I buy or should I rent again? And I'm like, look, I just asked him a series of questions that led him to his own conclusion. And that conclusion is, well, yeah, like in 2 years, I want my net worth to be way more than it is now. And a good way to do that is to buy real estate. Because ultimately, properties are still appreciating. There's no housing crash until our inventory gets to like +5, right?
Either way, so values are still up 2 to 3% year over year.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, no, I think that, like, and I thought this would be helpful in this podcast is like today, I think it was 5 of our top producers on the team. I said, hey, if you could take the Back to the Future, the DeLorean, right? And we could enter in January 1st, 2023, what would you do differently? Like, what would you, if you could say like, hey, I want to do something different to end up with more deals this year? 2 things were very obvious through all 5 of them. Number 1 was follow-up. So what you just said, aggressive follow-up, but not aggressive on them, right? But aggressive follow-up, and then persistent follow-up. There you go. And then number 2 was pushing a little bit more. And so not necessarily being pushy, but like relaying the fact that, hey, I hear you. I hear what you're saying and what your family is telling you, but X, Y, and Z. And this is with sellers and buyers. One of my agents was like, I probably lost about 4 or 5 deals this year because like I just wasn't strong enough on my objection handling.
And some examples, right? It's like, hey, I understand your mom, your dad, your cousin, your uncle, your neighbor, everyone else is telling you that property values are going down. Here's the latest HAR report. They're up 2.5% average, 1% on the median. They're not going anywhere. Are they getting more expensive? They're getting much more expensive with rates. And then it's just telling them that story. So you're going to wait. You say you want to wait until rates come down to what, like 6%? Yeah. It's like you and everybody else. What happened when rates went down last time? But I think the message is still the same, but the style of our delivery just has to be that much more different. And I think it's through storytelling, honestly.
And I think it's just the conversation that we have with people who most people, I feel like, approach real estate like as if they're an investor. And so they approach it like, well, but I'm not buying it at the lowest price possible, and I'm not getting the best this possible. And what if it loses value because the market crashes? And I'm like, are you going to sell the house in a year? Are you flipping it? Because if you're not, some of those things don't matter. Like if you are quote unquote paying more than you think something is worth right now, but you're going to live there for 5 to 7 years, the value will catch up to whatever it is that you feel like it. So you're going to get that back.
Your primary use is living in that house.
Does it work for you?
Yeah, it's not. Your primary use isn't for that to be a passive income asset.
Right. A large chunk, every time you make your payment, a large chunk of that goes right back into a hidden bank account for you called equity.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just it's helping people to see what their place in the real estate market is and why they're buying a home.
Yeah. You can
going back to that motivation.
You can rent the same apartment for 5 years, and when you leave, all you leave with is your furniture. Or you can buy a house and live in it for 5 years.
Yeah.
And let's say it doesn't appreciate at all, but that money that you paid and the amount that was applied towards your principal balance, you're going to get that back.
And tax benefits.
And the tax benefits. You can save $10,000 a year just on your property taxes as a write-off.
Yeah. No, so I think that there's, and we could go into that as a completely separate podcast, the benefits of home ownership. But I think it's what Tom Toole, we go all the way back to what Tom Toole said, is that you have to be better with your words. Mm-hmm. And in the last 2.5 years, 3 years, you did not have to be a good communicator because there was incentives on buyer side and there was incentives on seller side to where it was just like, what do you want to buy?
It sold
Let's
itself.
hurry up.
Yeah.
And now like you have to have better words. You have to be a master communicator to take people on a journey. And that journey is not physical as much as it is verbal. And so you have to meet expectations and then you have to calm anxieties with both sell and buy.
Yeah. So I think what that speaks to in terms of what did we do this year that you can't do anymore, I think it's still living like it's 2021, 2022. Yeah. It's not that anymore. And if you haven't gotten that by now, 2024 is going to be a very painful year. If this year wasn't, next year is going to be even more painful. So I think it's remembering like the market has changed in terms of the way that your buyers and sellers are seeing it, their perspective. The conversations have changed, and the same things that you might have done or didn't have to do because it wasn't necessary for you to sell real estate now are important again. And so kind of speaking to those agents who didn't have a license pre-COVID, like I think that's the stronger reminder. Those who were pre-COVID, they remember what it was like. They're a little bit more used to what it is now. But those who got their license during COVID don't know anything else. And so that's the strong encouragement I would give is like, you can't treat this like last year or like the year before.
Yeah, it's completely different.
At the end of the day, what are we? We're problem solvers. So what are the two problems that we're here to solve? Number one, helping buyers understand that they still can buy a house and that in most circumstances, not all, but most, it is a more responsible and better decision to purchase rather than rent. And how can we better communicate that to them? Mm-hmm. Then on the sell side, it's, hey, you're still going to sell your house. It's going to take a little bit longer than you may think. And it may not be at the price that I'm going to tell you at the listing appointment, but we're going to do it. And we're going to have the data to support it and the facts to support it. But it's just, those are the two problems that we need to solve. And it's no longer a just trust me, I got this response, which worked for several years.
Yeah. Or just list it, man. It doesn't really matter.
Yep.
Like it's going to sell itself. People are going to buy it. We're just going to hold an open house for one day and we're going to get multiple offers. I had to have that conversation with the seller recently. I put up the listing and we got an offer the first day. I was like, hey man, I know this feels like we haven't done anything and we haven't marketed anything, but you got an offer on day one. Like that's not necessarily as much of a thing anymore because there was a little bit of hesitation. Like, well, maybe what if there could be something better? What if we marketed it a little bit longer? I'm like, you got a full price offer, man. Like,
yeah.
You got to take it because this is not when you sold your house 2 years ago because I sold that one.
Yeah.
And we did. We waited through the weekend and we got 5 more offers and we leveraged it and we got better this and more terms. I'm like, it's not that anymore, man. This is, if you let this one walk, the grass might not be greener on the other side.
Right.
And that's just the fact of where we are. So then it goes back to What was the reason why you're moving? Oh, I'm getting relocated. Okay, and you're going to need the money from this house to buy the next one, right? Yeah, I'm going to need it to buy the next one. And you're traveling to that city to go buy a house this weekend, right? Yes. Wouldn't it be nice we got exactly what we asked for? Yeah. Wouldn't it be nice to already have this in motion so that you can start making those plans? And it was like, okay.
And that's what I'm talking about as being a little bit more persistent and aggressive, because I think that not the majority, but a lot of agents that have gotten their real estate license in the last 3 years did not have to have these tough talks. They didn't have to have these hard conversations, and they didn't have to push. And so a lot of agents, given that same situation, that are not comfortable with hard conversations would say, oh, okay, all right, well, maybe we'll just keep this one as backup and see, what else comes. What's going to happen? We know what's going to happen. That buyer's going to get pissed. They're going to pull their offer. House. They're going to find another house, put an offer in on that, and then you're going to have to deal with
And then you'll be sitting on market for 40 days like my listing in Tamaron.
Yeah, 10 to 15 grand less than what they got, and now your seller is pissed, right?
Not at themselves.
They'll never be pissed at themselves. They'll be mad at you because,
why did you let me do that?
But I guess my thing is you pushed, right? No matter how, like we want to say that. You pushed back and you got him to do the right thing for himself and his family. Because I know, and at the end of the day, if he would have passed up on that, it's just how things work. Like he would have gotten other offers for sure, but it wouldn't have been for what it was.
Right. And it's that it is pushing. How do I say it? Well, it's the example I feel like we give agents a lot. We tell our agents we're playing a game of it's what's that martial arts? Is it judo? No.
Judo.
Where we're using body weight.
Yeah.
It's that example that we give all the time, which is I'm not punching him in the face. I'm letting him tell me what he wants, and then I'm using his.
If you punch someone in
judo. Well, yeah. But I'm using his weight to bring him to the ultimate goal of what he told me.
You're digging deeper.
Yeah.
You dug deep and you found out what his motivations were, and you used those against him to ultimately help me, help you, help all of us.
Right. This is not me trying to make him do something he doesn't want to do. This is me reminding him of what his original goal was and how this will help him accomplish that. And still presenting it as you have the option. You can do whatever you want. And I will go back to this buyer and I will tell them what you want me to tell them. However, just make sure that you've considered this. These are your options and these are the consequences of those choices. But also, like, this is the better choice, right? But it's doing that in a way that doesn't feel like, well, you made me take that offer and I'm mad at you because you made it's like. But now he's like glad that he took the offer.
Did y'all get any other offers in that weekend?
No.
Yeah.
We actually had a very slow weekend. There was only 4 groups that came through the entire weekend. We had one person that said they were interested, but they weren't willing to make an offer so quickly. They didn't want to do it before the rest of the weekend. So I'm like, well, good thing we took that one, right?
Yeah.
And we got a shorter option period, so it closes before the weekend, just in case we needed to do an open house if they terminated. Because we already had a 2-year-old inspection report, I negotiated to like, hey, we're not going to be doing repair negotiations because you are fully aware of the condition of the house as it is. You can do another inspection to verify that it's the same, but we're not negotiating over those things. If it's something new, let me know. So like, it's actually been probably better than what he could have gotten if it had been somebody where there wasn't that. Because we got the full price offer and because we were going to try to close in their time frame, we got to kind of work the terms in his favor. So that he's getting exactly without negotiating anything, no credits, no nothing, right?
Yeah, I think that, and maybe a good question going towards our business planning and to finish us out is 2024. Something that I asked all of our agents today was, what do you like? Given your reflections on 2023, going into 2024, what is something new that you want to add to your business? Right, like what is a new component? It could be a practice, it could be a system, it could be a lead gen activity, it could be it could be simply just like scaling your time, right, or getting more time by saying, well, look, I want to hire a yard service, or I want to do dry cleaning, or I want to like taking your time away from certain things so you can apply more time to real estate. It could be that, but the majority of people said, hey, client care is something that I've really been missing out on. I haven't been doing database videos consistently is something that I haven't been doing, and I need to be doing that more. And that's what I'm committing to adding to my business this year, right? Doesn't have to be a big thing, but it can be something that as we're adding to our business, hopefully, I mean, my goal is for all of our agents within 3-4 years of them getting their real estate license and being on our team, that they have more people that are referring them business than them going outbound, prospecting getting. So I think that's a great goal to have, but at the same time, it will never be a reality unless we're working in and on our business.
Yeah. So I think if you're watching this, that's really the question that we pose to you is be reflective on 2023. What worked, what didn't work? And then in 2024, what can you add to your business that you're not doing today? We actually have a list of prospecting ideas that we put together. There's 18 of them.
Yep.
I think that would be a great thing to provide to anybody watching the podcast.
We can put the link below this, and it'll take you straight there.
So I think as you're looking towards planning for next year, take a look at that list. Which things on that list are you not doing right now that you could be adding, or which ones are you doing but you didn't go 100% into doing them? Maybe you're not consistent with them. Thinking ahead is what business owners do. So don't just be a license holder. If you want this to be a career, you want to go for that magic number, you want to make that $100,000, it starts with planning for next year now so that you're ahead of the game. And that way you can beat the competition. There's, at least for us here in Houston, there's still 42,000 other agents out there, right? So are you going to be one of those average that only sells 3 to 5 in a year? Or are you going to be one of those top few percentage that sells 20, 30, 40, 50 houses a year? If it's me, I want to be in that top percentage.
Well, and right now is the perfect time. If you're watching this during the November, December timeframe, everyone slacks off. Every single agent, they back off. They say, well, it's time for the holidays. I got family coming in town. It is a conducive environment to make a ton of excuses, right?
I noticed that I commented to my wife, even a team meeting on Monday. It was like 10 o'clock hit, and I was like, why is this room half empty? Like,
yeah,
it's just because it got colder all of a sudden.
It just
was like,
flips everyone.
Oh, I'm going to stay home today. Like, oh, I don't feel like going. Oh,
I'm sick.
Yeah, oh, I'm sick. I'm like, how does everybody all at the same time got sick overnight? Like, just because it got cold? Like, what's going on?
No, it's just, and it's the same for the gym or anywhere else. You just see like these patterns in us as like people, like any little change just throws us off. But what I was saying is you have a massive opportunity to take market share during this time. And I know that whenever I was still like heavy in production, I would go all out during these times. I was at every holiday party that I could be at, every Friendsgiving, every like Christmas party, like everything, because I knew that other agents were slacking off. Other agents were backing off, and they were having all these excuses. But I would take market share at that time and fill my first quarter during November and December. So, and first quarter is going to be extremely slow given the environment, the down market, everything that we're coming off of. It's going to be very, very, very slow. So if you don't have that pipeline built up, now is the best time, the next best time to get that thing filled up.
Awesome. Any closing thoughts?
No.
Well, thank you guys for watching. Again, there will be a link down below where you can download our list of 18 prospecting ideas and also a copy of our 2024 business plan. If you would like to schedule a one-on-one coaching call to go through your business plan with one of the team leaders of the Bridge Group, you'll be able to schedule a time with us. We'd love to sit down with you, talk with you about your goals, what worked, what didn't work, and help you get your business on track for next year. Again, thanks for watching to the end, and we'll see you guys on the next one.